Hello and welcome to the next installment of this series on laying ceramic tile. We are now at the point where the main field tile has been laid and we have to put the edge tiles around the main body up against the wall. So in today's video, what I will show you is how to easily mark, cut, and install those tiles to complete the job. Let's get started. In the previous videos, we went through the entire process of getting this floor installed. Everything came out the way it was supposed to. And that puts me in a position now of getting this finished by getting this edge tile put in. It's time to mark the first tile. And here's what we do. I'm going to start out with some of the broken tiles that came in the box. I come across one periodically, got shipped in shipment, and this tile happens to be such that the good end is the orientation it's supposed to be based on the arrow on the bottom. So this is going to be the tile I cut to fill in this open space. The first thing I do is I lay it down here on top of this tile. Next to the space, I have a couple tile spacers in to maintain a gap here, so it makes it easier to line this tile up. It's sitting directly on top of the other one. Against the wall, I have a 3/8 inch spacer. It's exactly 3/8 of an inch. These tile spacers are 3/16 of an inch. Times 2, that's 3/8 of an inch. Why 3/8? I want a 3/16 gap along the edge of this tile for the grout line. And I want a 3/16 inch gap along this wall for a grout line to make it even. This gives me that space. So I'm going to put that there. Here's another full tile, a good one, proper orientation. Set that on top of the tile I'm going to cut, slide it forward to push that. And be careful, keep this in line to push that spacer up against the wall. That gives me my mark line for cutting the tile. I don't have to use a tape measure to measure. That's not necessary. And when I mark it, I don't want to use a Sharpie because a Sharpie leaves a line that you can't get back off. I don't want to see that after I cut it. So I'm going to take a number 2 pencil and I'm going to mark along here. This line will assure that this tile is cut so that it fits with any irregularity in the wall over here. Give it one more pass to make sure I can see it. Take my marker tile off, and I'm ready to take this over to the tile saw and get it cut. To cut these porcelain tile, I'm going to be using this somewhat larger tile saw that I picked up. I do have a smaller tile saw, about a 4-inch blade, and I've used that on regular ceramic tile, particularly on wall tile, thinner, smaller tile. Works great. And I've also used the tile scoring machine here with the breaker, and I've used that on, again, floor tile if it's just plain ceramic tile with a very smooth surface where I can get a good score line, because it's basically like cutting glass and then breaking it. However, this tile that I'm using here is a porcelain tile. It's a much harder tile and it has an irregular surface, so I can't get a good score line on it. So I am going to have to use this saw, 7-inch blade, water bath saw. I did a little trial and error when I cut the first couple of pieces of tile using this new saw. I had to do a little adjusting here to get this support lined up properly to clear the cut as the tile passes through. No matter what you do, this thing likes to splash a lot of water around, and I did some research, and it doesn't matter if you've got one like this or a $400 saw, they all like to throw water, and there are videos on how to put shields around and keep the water from splashing. So even though I've got a nice 13-mile-an-hour breeze going on today, it's not too cold, it's in the 50s. I brought this little circus outside, and we're going to try cutting out here. I found something I can set the saw on to get it up off the floor. I found too that trying to work down on the floor on your knees, you can't see well enough and it's very tough to operate. I am going to now try to cut a tile. I've got the guide set over here, so it'll guide this cut. Let's give it a try. Little something I learned here is that this guide sometimes when you lock it doesn't lock perfectly straight, and that's what I ran into here when I got hung up. It was pushing me at just a little bit of an angle here, and it bound the blade up. So I loosened that, got this thing lined up and adjusted with the blade locked back down, and then the tile slid right through. So I'm going to take this in, rinse it off, check it out, see that it's a good fit, and cut a couple more. So the tile I just cut got a little bit narrow because all the adjusting around, I got a little too far on this line, but it fit a little bit further down in front of the fireplace where it's a little bit narrower, so it'll be just fine there. I'm going to cut this piece to go in. But what I'm going to do is just avoid using this guide. If you recall using that 3/8 inch spacer against the wall to get an exact line to cover the angle that there may be on that wall, and there is an angle in front of that fireplace, there's a bit of a curve there. So in order to take advantage of that, I am going to freehand cut this, and now that I'm standing up and not sitting on the floor, I can get a good view of the blade as it's cutting on that line. And I can keep the blade lined up with this pencil line, and it's not necessarily going to line up with this locked down in place. That's part of the problem I would have binding up. So I'm going to check the water in here. You do not want to let these go dry, and they throw a lot of water and it's down a little bit. So I've got water handy. I'm going to top it off. You want to make sure you do that. And it's going to take quite a bit of water. Another reason to do this outside. Let's give this one a whirl. That one went pretty slick. I think we have a system here. I'm going to rinse this off, check it out, and I think we're in good shape. I now have 6 pieces cut and lined up along the fireplace. They fit in pretty well, and I'm ready to mark and cut another one. This time it'll be a full piece. I had to cut one other full piece already, and the other part of that is done at the other end of the room up against the wall. And the way things work out, cutting one tile gives me the piece I need here and the piece I need on the other end. Works out great. Now there are going to be spots where the marking method I showed isn't going to work, like right here where the tile makes a transition into the hallway, where there is an angle cut on the vinyl that's in front of that basement door. So I set the tile in place. I'll have spacers in here and take a straight edge and then just mark that line along the tile, and that'll be my cut mark to trim these so they fit into the edge piece that's going to be going in here. In this particular case, it's not going to go as smoothly as it did with the other ones, but that's another situation you may run into with some angle cuts. Another detail for border tile, when you reach a transition point between what I have here, which is some sheet vinyl I had to lay, so I've got to make the transition from the tile I'm laying to that piece of vinyl. I got a piece of metal border meant for tile in a situation like this. Cut it to length, set it in place with some duct tape to hold it in place so I could measure and mark the tile that I need to put in here, leaving just enough space along the edge for some grout between the edge of the tile and this bullnose molding. I've applied the thin set to the area where I'm going to put those border tiles along this bullnose, including putting some thin set down where the bullnose gets applied. I'm going to set it in place on the mark and push it down into the thin set, so you want it to work up through those openings. That's what's going to hold it in place. I've got it lined up here where it needs to be on that corner. Now I need to get a little more thin set on top of this bullnose to hold the tile in place so it's level and even. And use my 3/8 notch trowel. Again, to make sure everything's even. Take that little bit of excess away from the edge here. And let's see how the tile fits. Forgot to strike off my excess thin set on the edge there before I set that tile. It's something you'll want to do. Just take that excess away so it doesn't ooze up. Makes it a lot easier later when you want to grout. You don't have as much to clean up. Set this big one in place. Tile work down where it needs to be. Set this small one in place. And we are pretty good. Clean that out. Put this last piece in. Set the spacers in place so we stay nice and even. Double check all my alignment here. It's a tough spot right here. That border along that bullnose is now in place. Once that sets up, it'll get grouted along with everything else and be a nice smooth transition over into that vinyl. The end result was a smooth and attractive transition between the vinyl in this hallway and the porcelain tile in the music room. It was pretty easy to do. And now that it's grouted in, it's nice and smooth. I'll lay a bead of caulk in front of the bullnose just to seal up that front end a little bit. This will provide a durable and attractive transition between these two areas for years to come. That wraps things up for this video on how to mark and cut edge tile when you're tiling a large area. If you found something useful in this video and enjoyed watching it, well then please click like and consider subscribing to our channel. You can tune in again next time when I complete this floor project by getting it grouted and get the base moldings back on so we can get the furniture moved back in here and start enjoying this room. So until next time, enjoy your projects and take care.